Hello, it's me, Turd Slurp, and welcome once more to Seditious September. So far, we've talked about reform versus revolution and listed some easy direct action techniques you can take advantage of. Today, we're going to discuss the whys and hows of workplace organizing. Normally, I would encourage everyone to watch my videos at work. You get to entertain yourself, support me, and also waste your employer's time and resources. It's a win-win. This video is a little different though. This one might be dangerous to watch at work, not because of any spicy content, but because the things I'm going to talk about are not something your employer wants you to discuss in the workplace. In fact, you probably don't want this video in your cache on your work computer. It is imperative that management does not hear you discussing the ideas I'm about to bring up in this video. It can be a fireable offense to even talk about some of this stuff, let alone actually act on any of it. And in a way, the power they have over you to do that demonstrates the power dynamic we're trying to fight here. Nothing is stopping your bosses from organizing. Nothing is stopping them from developing strategies to wring more profit out of you. But they're able to ruin your life if you so much as consider your right to any sort of workplace organization or collective bargaining. Labor history is littered with bloody stories of employers waging literal wars on workers, beating them, arresting them, killing them. Every single protection that we enjoy in the workplace today was fought for by generations of working class people taking a stand against the unchecked power of capital. Do you like having weekends or the 40-hour work week? How about parental overtime, safety regulations, vacation days, medical benefits, or parental leave? All of these things were something that workers had to shed blood and fight tooth and nail to establish. Give them an inch, and your employer will try to claw them back from you as hard as they can. But you're not powerless, as much as you may feel that way sometimes. Remember, in every workplace, nothing gets done without the workers. Until they can get a robot to do your job, they need you or someone like you to do it. If the entire workforce works together and develops solidarity with one another, that gives us leverage to bargain from a position of strength. Now, I should mention off the top, I don't really have a job. I mean, I do. This is my job. But I don't really have a boss. You could argue, I guess, that my patrons at patreon.com/thoughtslime are my bosses, but they don't really seem at all interested in telling me what to do. But I've worked places before. I've had tons of shitty jobs. I have suffered all kinds of indignities, and I have witnessed even worse indignities happening to others. I know how it feels to be trapped in a bullshit job doing work for employers that hate your guts or don't even know you exist. I know what it feels like to get screwed. And if you have a job, and your job isn't just owning something, you're getting screwed. You may not be able to apply the tactics I'm going to discuss in this video, but you're going to be able to stand in solidarity with your fellow workers. Never forget what side you're on, because believe me, the people that own 40 hours of your week won't forget what side they're on. If you work for a living, you will benefit from joining a union. Alone, you probably don't have much of a chance of picking a fight with your employers and winning. They can always discipline you. They can always fire you. They can always just ignore you. You're just one person. Even if they're harming you in a way that's actively breaking the law, they can pressure you into keeping quiet about it, or you risk losing your job. Even if you take a stand, they can bury you in legal fees and make it impossible for you to fight back. That is, if you're alone. Now, if your workplace is unionized, they don't get to step all over you without picking a fight with their entire workforce. They run the risk of setting off a strike or work stoppage that eats up weeks of productivity. Your grievances will have some teeth. But that's easier said than done. A lot of workplaces, especially so-called low-skill workplaces, will just fire their entire staff at the first whiff of unionization. It can be difficult and dangerous to organize in such a hostile environment, and that's by design. It also might be difficult to convince your coworkers of the benefits of a union, because rich ghoul lords spend a lot of money making spooky propaganda to convince their workforce not to act in their own best interests. And even if they are sympathetic to your cause, they might not be willing to, risk their job and livelihood and not being able to feed their family over it. These problems are intractable, and I have no idea how to solve them. But you know who does know how to solve them, though? The industrial workers of the world. That's right, I'm back on my bullshit. Joinin' org, you nerds. You thought we were done with this shit after last week. No way, punk. If you don't know where to start organizing your workplace, the iDoubleDub will help you get a head start. That's the main thing they do. That's like their whole thing. I know my limit, I play within it. I make YouTube videos, which people only do if they can't do anything useful in the real world. If you want to learn how to organize, you can learn that from trained people if you just reach out to them. It's literally as easy as just sending an email. That's all you have to do to get started. And I know that I talked about this a lot in my last video, but it's really the most important thing you can do if you want to get started. You are not going to be able to figure out how to do this better on your own than with their help. So, #joinin'org, you nerds. Besides, most people find an argument more persuasive when they hear it multiple times. If you do this in secret, if you do this in a way that your employer cannot discover, you have literally nothing to lose. You don't even have to give your real name. Nobody cares. You don't have to be an industrial worker. That's just an old-timey name. And the method of organizing they do is industrial unionism. So, any kind of job, even if you're unemployed, join anyway. Do it. Do it, coward. Keep in mind, though, you're being watched. Your bosses are surveilling you in ways that you might not even know about. Logging your keystrokes, reading your emails. If they start to think that maybe someone's stirring up trouble, they might bring in spies or convince your coworkers to spy on you. Remember, there are eyes everywhere. Eyes, eyeballs, thousands of eyes, staring at me, marching forward. An invasion of eyeballs. There are so many. I can't see them. It's dark. These eyeballs blot out the sun. Hello and welcome to the Eyeball Zone. Here in the Eyeball Zone, all small leftist projects are seen. All are free to attract the eyeballs they deserve. Free from fear and small-minded superstition. So, it's Praxis you want. Oh, I'll give you Praxis. Check out Bemundolack, who has much more bona fides with local organizing than I do. Their video, finally some good $$% Praxis, is of particular relevance to this discussion. They do a great job of highlighting modern methods of organizing, instead of focusing on the history of leftist organizing like a lot of people might do. If you're looking for ways to get involved in your local community, I can think of no better place to start than this video. I'd also like to highlight their video on how to make communist art. People don't talk about that enough. Art reaches people, and your enemies know how to use it, so should we. Do you have a small leftist project you want featured here? Are you willing to live amongst the eyeballs? Send me exactly one email with the word eyeballs somewhere in the subject line. Please include your preferred pronouns, and the contract will be sealed. Go now, and battle not eyeballs, lest ye become an eyeball. I'm not going to tell you to sabotage equipment in your workplace. That's a pretty extreme thing to do, and if you're caught, the consequences could be equally extreme. Now, everything I say is satire, and doing something like that should only be considered in extreme circumstances. Like if your employer breaks a strike by bringing in scabs or something. Or if your job is constructing oil pipelines. This is all jokes, I'm making jokes. But there are subtler ways to fuck things up, ways that you can't really be punished for. Through the legal system, anyway. You could still be fired. So, you know, weigh your options here. First and foremost, work slower. Convince your coworkers to also work slower, if you can. Your boss will make you work as hard as they think they can get away with. There is no upper limit on how hard they will make you work, no matter how little they pay you in return. What, then, is their incentive to pay you more or treat you better if they're already getting the maximum value out of you, if you can't do any more? Even if you don't adopt this as a labor organizing practice, this is just something that I wish the average person would just do. Like, I understand that it's not that easy, particularly for women and people of color, and especially for people with criminal records whose job prospects ain't exactly poppin'. Also, this doesn't really apply that well to jobs like nurses or teachers or firefighters or whatever, because, like, if they slack off and work slower, people might get hurt. But somewhere along the line, we all adopted this mentality that we should be working as hard as we can no matter how shittily we are compensated. A lot of conservatoids will tell me, "Oh, Mr. Communist, you think people are just gonna work for free?" Yeah, dog. People work for free every fucking day, right now. Every single bit of work you do that is above the bare minimum of your job requirements is you working for free. So, if you can get away with it, don't work for free. If you're paid to do a job, then do it. And don't do anything else without extra compensation. In a sensible world, this would just be the expectation. You don't owe your employer extra work. They're not doing you a favor by employing you. They need you to perform some task. If you do the work of 2 people for the wages of 1, you're saving your employer money by taking it out of the pockets of the second person they should have employed. Again, this is all easier said than done. In this shitty job market and ever-expanding gig economy, your prospects are looking pretty slim. And in the thoroughly unsensible world we live in now, you're expected to put your nose to the grindstone or be replaced with someone who will put their nose to the grindstone. Maybe somebody with a better nose. That's why if you're going to attempt this strategy, it's critical that you get your coworkers on board. It's a lot harder for most businesses to fire a bunch of people than just one, and that's going to make them think twice. It also makes it more difficult to determine how much harder you should be working if the rest of your coworkers are working at the same pace you are. The modern workplace has a lot of rules. Rules usually put in place by either a regulatory body that wants to keep you safe, or your employer who wants to extract as much as they can from you. In literally every single job I have ever worked, there have been rules and guidelines that must be ignored for the job to work smoothly. These rules are just there to cover your employer's butt in the event that something goes wrong, or heaven forbid, you have a single free second of time while on the clock. They can point at those rules that they've taught you to ignore and say it's your fault for not following them. I gave a small and extremely petty example of this tactic in my video about working at Tim Hortons. There was a rule that you were to wash your hands every 15 minutes. So, every 15 minutes, I would step away from my workstation and wash my hands very thoroughly. I would luxuriate in washing my hands. It's a little break every 15 minutes. Here's a tip. Do you process credit card payments at work? Have you ever checked out your company policy on how to process credit card payments? Because probably there's something in there telling you that in the event that should your customer have to sign a receipt, you are meant to check for a signature on the back of the card and decline the card if it doesn't have a signature or the signatures don't match. That rule doesn't make any sense, and a lot of people don't sign their cards. You'd have to ignore that to keep your work running smoothly. It's just there to cover your employer's butts so they can blame any credit card fraudulence on you. Now, what would happen if you just followed that rule to the letter? Every single person who didn't have a signature on the back of their credit card, which I can tell you from experience is a shitload of people, can't pay for their shit. And you can just sit there and argue with them, and probably they'll make you call over the manager, who then has to either tell you to ignore a company policy or sit there and argue with the customer and waste their time too. Now, I don't know where you work, and I don't know what the rules are there, but I bet if you follow them to the letter, you'll jam everything up. Try it out sometime. These are all pretty obvious strategies that are the first things to come to mind when you think of labor actually fighting back against capital. I'm going to be brief here because I'm not sure how useful this is going to be to you if you're not already unionized or in a place where you can get all of your coworkers to get on board. I don't really think you should attempt any of these strategies unless you for sure know what you're doing. But if you do know what you're doing, and the conditions are right, these are probably the most powerful weapons in your arsenal. Might I suggest taking an organizer training course from the IWW, #JoinAnOrgYouNerds. You should also probably check out the legal statutes on striking in your area. Now, I'm not saying to follow them, but you should be aware of them. Even if you yourself are not organizing your workplace for whatever reason, it's important to support people who are as a matter of principle. Donate to them. Donate to organizations that help them. Don't cross picket lines. Don't purchase from companies whose workers are striking. And for the love of God, don't ever, ever scab Support them, even when they're fighting for something that doesn't apply to you. Support women in the workplace, even if you're not a woman. Support people of color in the workplace, even if you're white. Support LGBTQ+ people in the workplace, even if you're straight and cis. Not just as a matter of principle, even though, yeah, definitely, it is a matter of principle and that should be enough. But also, because every victory that workers secure makes all workers stronger when they need to fight. When your coworkers, or anyone working a job really, complain about their working conditions, even if it seems like what they're saying doesn't line up with your experience, listen to them, sympathize with them, and without outright proselytizing to them, gently nudge them towards recognizing that their problems are the result of management's decisions. Try to escape the mindset of endless productivity that capitalism has instilled in you. And to the best of your ability, help your fellow workers to also escape that mindset. Be careful with your words. Don't say anything that's going to make you a target, but look for opportunities to practice solidarity and teach it to others in the spirit of mutual cooperation and empathy. Right now, the boss has all of the power. We made that power, and the power belongs to us. The boss having the power is not the natural order of things. It's the result of centuries of careful planning and brainwashing to convince us to hand it over. When we decide to take it back, when we all decide to take it back, there's nothing they can do about it. Another video in the books. It's done. Thanks for watching. I would appreciate it if you would press the like button and subscribe to me here. Also, if you're so inclined, I have a Patreon at patreon.com/thoughtslime. You can go there, you can see all these names and drawings in the credits. Those are all people that did that and gave me some money. It's not something you have to do, but it is something that I appreciate if you can. Why don't you go ahead and also check out me on twitch.tv/thoughtslime, where I stream at least once a week, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Thursday at least. Today I'm going to start playing Resident Evil 2 Remake, and it's going to be fun because I'm very scared of scary video games and I'm going to scream and cry a lot. So if you want to see me suffer, it's a good opportunity to do that. You can also check out my second channel, Scaredy Cats, at youtube.com/scaredycatstv. You don't have to remember any of these URLs. All of these URLs are in the description, so don't worry about committing them to memory right now. You can just click the links, baby. You can just go down there and click on them. I made it easy for you. Next week, we're going to get real frivolous, because this has been a week of serious videos, and I want to get silly.